there, and welcome. Well, today is Friday, so it's time for an anomaly, and this one I'm going to call the upper dog. I had just started teaching in a place I'm going to call Littleton. And in Littleton, one of my former teachers, I was just starting teaching, and one of my former teachers, who I thought was a pretty good teacher, not great, but pretty good, decided to run for the school board after he had retired. And as part of this gambit to run for the school board, he somehow managed to get himself invited to be the graduation speaker that year. And that's my dream, is to be somebody's graduation speaker. But anyway, he got up, and really the speech was about his run for school board member. And the title of the speech was, "I'm for the upper dog." The overall import of the speech was an objection to something that was being called at the time mainstreaming, and I think they now call it inclusion. But what it means is that students with learning disabilities or problems that make them unable to complete regular academic work are included in the school as much as possible. In some schools, if they're big enough, they have special programs, and a student with a lot of disabilities or delays often will have an escort that is kind of like their personal tutor that goes with them to all their classes. So it turns out that for this speech of "I'm for the upper dog," there was one of these full inclusion students who was graduating, and his escort was with him. Now, when an inclusion student like this graduates, they get a different type of diploma than the standard diploma. And the ceremony ended up going kind of long because this particular campaign speech about being for the upper dog and how full inclusion was dumb, it went kind of long, and the guy who had the escort needed to go to the bathroom. So while, let's call him Mr. So-and-so, was out front talking about how he liked students that achieved and succeeded and went past their peers, this one full inclusion student was behind the stage peeing on it. I was, to be honest with you, I was thoroughly offended by the speech, but I knew the story of what was going on back in the background too, so it seemed somehow horrible and fitting. But it made me think of a different graduation that I did know about, but I never attended. You know, my folks lived in small towns, really small towns, even smaller than Littleton for a big part of their career. And one of the small towns they lived in had no special ed programs at all. It was early on, probably mid-20th century, and there were students that had learning delays in those schools. And my dad, being the principal, felt like they needed to come to school too, and he made provisions and arrangements for a boy named Georgie to go ahead and go to school with the regular kids. So Georgie was an inclusion student before inclusion or any of those special words for it were introduced. Anyway, Georgie went to school, and he got old enough to graduate. And so at graduation, my father prepared a special certificate for Georgie. And when his name was called, it wasn't a regular diploma, it was a certificate of completed attendance. And Georgie got to cross the stage, wear his graduation outfit, just like all the other kids. And of course, when he crossed the stage, He was cheered with great enthusiasm by the community because he was theirs. He belonged to them. They all knew what was going on, and they all found it perfectly wonderful. Now, there probably were some people in the community that were maybe not too thrilled with the whole idea of Georgie getting to go through the ceremony, but my dad made sure it happened. And that's part of why I think the way I do about a lot of things is my mother and father were, at their core, compassionate and welcoming people. And they found a way to make things work even when it seemed like maybe they couldn't. I suppose that's what we all should be doing. Try to make things work as best they can, even in times when it doesn't seem like there's even a way to do that. That's it for today. I hope you have a glorious rest of the day. And I hope you see me again, you gorgeous people.